how do we get to calm? This is how we get to calm. And on to the rational pavement of mutual agreement, right? That rational pavement, that's the calm, right? You got to get there first before you can get the folks to the agreement. And let's keep on going. And again, myself and Wendy Velez are your presenters today. And so, what's the point of mediation? The point of mediation is to, well, there's many points, but a general point is to um, get the parties from conflict and competition. When they come into mediation, right, they're in conflict, they're competing with each other. You want to get them from conflict and competition to collaboration, right? And getting there, that's the tough part, isn't it? um a real general thing there. Wendy, yes, you agree that's one of the things that we do, the points of mediation?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so what is the mediator's role? Our role is to help reduce friction between each party's existing jobs, pains, and gains, and each party's perceived progress and aspirations. This is,
I want to interrupt you just 1 second. It's
please.
Kelly. I don't know why, but I'm getting the people who are in the waiting room. So I'm going to start letting people in if I see them. Is that okay?
Please, yes, absolutely.
Okay, just go ahead. Sorry.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I haven't been getting.
Wendy can make you a co-host as well. I appreciate that. So when I was the director of mediation at CPLS, the principal there, T Prasad, he talked about this, and I agree with him. Right, in essence, everybody in mediation, attorneys and the parties, anyone who's there, they all have jobs, things that they need to get done. They have pains, things that are hurting them that they need to get resolved, and they have gains, things that they'd like to see and need to see happen as a result of mediation. And then the progress that they think they want to have and the aspirations that overall they'd like to see, that they'd like to see come out of the mediation, right? So our job is to help reduce the friction between those. It's the friction, it's the obstacles. This is where we have to work with the parties. And so how do we do this, right? Generally speaking, everybody, if you don't mind, mute yourself so that we don't hear you. So you have to find where the jobs, the pains, and the gains, and the progress and aspirations of the parties, where do they intersect? Where do they fit into the puzzle, right? Those places that they kind of coalesce with each other, that those are the places we're looking for. That's what we're trying to find, right? Now, and the other thing that's really huge, and really this is more what we're going to be talking about, is by connecting each party with each party in a meaningful way. Excuse me. That is the mediator, right? We have to also connect with each party in a meaningful way. If we can do that, then we can start to get everything else. We can start to see what the jobs, the pains, and the gains are. We'll start to recognize as we are listening, as we're seeing what all the issues are, as we're starting to create the our agenda and what we think the path forward is, right? But we need to connect with the parties in a meaningful way. And the problem is that sometimes really high emotion gets in the way, and that's what we're here to talk about, right? And so one of the things, though, before you start really dealing with high emotions, right, from the get-go, from the beginning, from the very, very beginning, we should be mirroring, right, with our parties. Respect equally, relate to both sides, even those you don't like, right? When we're in with each of them, we want to be what I call subjectively neutral, right? Remember, we are everybody's mediator. And so when we're mirroring, now this is subtle, this is nuance. You behave as you want the parties to behave so that they can mirror your behavior. Hopefully, right? They're going to be professional just like you're being professional. We want to also mirror their emotions, their expressions, their body language, their tone of voice, subtly, right? As you start to talk with folks and you spend time with them, sometimes people start to take on mannerisms of the other. The mediator, like a salesperson, we can do this purposefully as well, right? With good intention, of course. Um, and you want to reflect each party's emotions, but you don't make judgment, right? We're gonna not be in agreement, or we're going to like somebody, we're going to agree with what they're saying, but we're everybody's neutral, right? And then you're subtly injecting new perspective with the change of your tone, right? The way the inflection in your voice, emphasizing some things, minimizing others, ignoring some things altogether, right? And you're going on instinct, right? But before we can start doing all of the other stuff, from the first time you meet the folks, to the first time you talk to the folks, from your opening statement, we're doing this, and we're doing this all the time, and we're doing this throughout the mediation as well. But it's purposeful, just as it is subtle and nuanced. We're always going to be open-minded, transparent, right? While always remaining impartial, right? We are the neutral in the room. We're everybody's neutral. And as folks start to see us be transparent and trustworthy, we're coming across as reliable, right? Consistent in what we say, what our actions with everybody, right? Everyone starts to trust us, right? We start to build rapport with them. And you have to care, I think, for me, you have to care genuinely about both parties and their problems and their issues, right? And let it show. Me, I wear my empathy on my sleeve, right? And I would tell you that's one of the reasons that people call me. Sometimes they have some really high emotional people, and so I'm one of the guys or gals you call when you have those high conflict, content individuals. Wendy, do you want to add anything to this?
Well, I think I like what you say about mirroring and your catchphrase of subjective neutrality. When you're mirroring someone's emotions, you are not necessarily agreeing with the severity
Right.
of them,
That's right.
but
That's right.
acknowledging, validating. That must be very difficult for you. Or I can hear that this really stresses you, or you're very upset about this. No matter what you think about that particular, issue, but by validating and by mirroring them, you are showing a compatibility or
Yeah.
empathy to them.
Yeah. And it helps. And it's nuanced and it's subtle, right? Let's keep going. So parties first, right? They have to trust you. Before you can start using persuasive tools purposely, although I'm sorry, we're already kind of doing it, but the parties have to trust you, right? If they feel like you're listening to them, then they think you understand them. You don't have to say I understand, but just everyone needs to be listened to, right? And so when they think, oh, Tye's listening, Wendy's listening to me, if they feel that you understand them, they start to trust you, because we want everyone to understand us when we tell them what's going on. And then once they trust you, they'll be more willing to see that other party's position, right? Um, and then if we help each side to start to be able to see the other, then we can start to reframe the very positional places that they're coming from, right? The positional communication or the confrontational communication they've been using. And for me, this really, I'm not going to get into a mediator's bedside manner, but I'm talking about our bedside manner, right? And we all have it in different ways. For me, again, this is a really big tool. So the mirroring and understanding that I'm trying to build rapport and getting parties to trust me, that's part of my bedside manner. And a good bedside manner that creates trust. That can help lead to the collaboration. Why? Because they trust me. They're going to follow, right? They're going to hear what I'm saying. And then that can enable lasting agreement, right? If they trust you, then they'll let you lead them towards the collaboration, towards trying to find agreement. And if they themselves have been instrumental in coming to agreement, they're going to be more vested in that agreement rather than someone in a black robe saying, you will do this, right? So our bedside manner, for me, really, really important. You're all going to do it in different ways, but for me, it's really, really important. Wendy, did you want to add anything?
No, you're going great.
Okay, I'll go to the next one then. Okay, so now let's start talking about high emotions. These can be obstacles in mediation. You have someone who is really, really upset. You have to first overcome their high emotion, right? And so there's going to be a lot of different emotion that we're going to come across, right? And so people are going to be angry. That's the easy one. They're angry. They're upset at that other person, especially if we're doing family cases. They're going to be in some level of distress, right? Sometimes they're going to be disgusted by that other party. I'm thinking of a mediation, a family mediation. You know, those instances when someone gets cheated on, and they're done with that person, and everything about them just, or what they were put through. What about folks who come to us who are really afraid? And that can take so many different forms. Physically afraid, afraid of what's going on, afraid of what may happen to them, what's the court going to do, afraid of the other individual. There could be some domestic violence. I mean, a lot of in that one alone, right? There so many things can be going on. The parties are overwhelmed. It's a lot. These are some of the, we're seeing folks at some of their worst, lowest times, right? Um, uh, they may be very, very depressed. What's going on is getting to them. And or they're gonna be like really suspicious. I mean, pick one. And something in between, some combination, right? You're gonna folks or you're gonna find them in mediation, and they're gonna be in some level of high emotion. When we have high emotions, it can be any one of a number of things, right? And you're gonna see it, and you're gonna see it because either you're gonna be told, you're gonna see it because you see it, you're gonna see it because, oh my gosh, you're recognizing it. And so I would tell you, you have to address the emotions first. You're not going to be able to move on if you don't address whatever this high emotion is. And so, by the way, right, it's case by case. It's going to be different all the time. And so your instincts will inform you of what you think is going on because you've seen so many different things, right? And so these are just some suggestions. There can be more, and follow your instinct when you're there and you're seeing it. You have to figure out for yourself, okay, how do I address this? Where do I move next? Now, I would also tell you, one of your parties is overwrought. They are the emotional one. They're the one who you're going to have to spend some time with. Speak with them first, right? Why? Because if we can calm them down, then maybe we can start to get some leeway in the process. And we want them to start to buy in. We want them to start to trust us. We need to take care of them first, right? If there's an issue, something comes up, take care of that issue in mediation first before you move on. Don't just go do something else first, right? People will appreciate it, I would tell you. Caucus, right? Easy. That's one of the easy ones. Separate them, right? You can caucus before or during, by the way. Whenever it's needed, that's when you do it. Your opening statement, right? You can sometimes see what's going on other than those three things that we always have to say. And what are those? That you're neutral, that everything is confidential along with the exceptions, and that mediation is voluntary and consensual. You can use your opening statement to talk to the parties, to kind of set the stage for what you think, what you see, what you understand is going on. And then in your pre-mediation communications as well, right? Sometimes councils will say, "Hey, listen, this is going on," and so, or you when maybe when you read the pleadings, the point of the matter is, case by case, this is going to come up, and you've got to figure out, okay, how do I start dealing with this, right? And it's case by case. Before I go on, Wendy, did you want to add anything?
Well, this reminded me of a case where literally the parties walked in the room, and luckily they had attorneys. And the first words out of the husband's mouth was, "That B wants this, that, and whatever, and she's not getting it." And so
Yeah.
so I said, "Well, let's get started." I ignored it and immediately acted like and said, "I'd like to start all cases in caucus. So we're going to separate into two separate rooms right now. And then I'm going to give my opening statement to each of you, and then we can get started. Okay. Thank you, counselor. Take your,
Yeah.
and I got
Sometimes
the
it's heading them off at the
non-argumentative.
pass, right?
Exactly. The non overly emotional person, I
Yeah.
had them leave the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
So leave the
Yeah.
angry one there, and
Yeah.
then and then jump right in with the after the opening statement, then saying clearly that you tell me what, there's some stuff you want me to know, and
Yeah.
but yeah, you've got to
You
cut
followed
it
your
off at the
instincts.
pass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You right. And it's a little bit, it's a lot, it's big time. It's whatever is you're being confronted with, whatever is presenting itself, you're going to react, and your instincts, and like in that case, Wendy, your instincts will be on point, right? Follow them, listen to them. And she was right in that regard. Okay, I don't want them together. Let's get going. You'll figure it out, right? But you have to head it off at the pass, and you have to address it. Okay. So now let me give you a quick we're going to break this down, but in essence, if you have high emotions, what is it you need to do? You have to de-escalate that party. You have to bring them down somehow, right? First of all, we need to remain calm. They will be, just pick some of those emotions. Don't take it personally. Be like a duck, let the water just roll, bead off of you, right? Right. Don't take it personally. And if they're going up, you're staying calm, right? And because we need to overcome that party's emotions. Okay, so why is there a horse and why is there a chimpanzee here? So the horse has blinders on, right? People, they come into mediation with blinders on. They have been thinking about this for a while and seeing it for a while. They know what's going on. They know why that bee or that jerk over there, they know why they've been wrong. They know why they're right. They know that idiot is this, that, and the other thing. They're stuck in this place. And if we're dealing with really high emotion, some individual and their emotions are really, really high, they've been there for a bit. And when they get into the mediation, boy, it can be a week, it could be 6 months, it can be a year. They go right back to that place where they've been at war. So now that they're in this tunnel vision of emotion. And what's the monkey? So monkey brain, right? You're when you're emotional, you're not rational. I think I'm a good mediator. My skills don't work at home. Why? Because I'm emotional. If I fight, if my wife and I are fighting, I can't think rationally. We have to get them out of monkey brain. That's the back, right? We have to bring them to rationality in the front. And so
Monkey brain.
That's monkey brain. Yeah. Right.
Sorry.
So
That's just awesome. Very memorable.
it's and so to get them rational is and now easily I'm saying it's a two-step process. It's a process, right? But you can think of it in two steps, right? And the first step is you want to listen empathetically, right? You need to listen to them. Everyone needs to be listened. That's the first thing you do, right? And you do it with everything that with your mediator's bedside manner, your mirroring, right? You're being neutral, but you're listening empathetically. You're all in, and you're letting them say what they need to say. You're letting them get it off their chest, right? So first you listen. And then when they're done, and you think that you understand what the issue is, why they're mad, then you have to validate those emotions. So in this picture, right, clearly the one in the back, the head, that's monkey brain. And that's all over the place. It's emotional. It is not rational. It's irrational. Look in the front, it is rational. It's flowing. They're thinking. We need to get them from monkey brain to rational. So when you listen, now they see you listening. And what are you doing? 10, 20 different things. You're trying to figure out what the issues are. What is it that's upsetting them? And then you're going to start to understand. And then it's time to validate their emotions, right? You have to let them see you seeing them and understanding what they're going through. You're upset because you feel it was unfair that. I mean, fill in those gaps, whatever the issue is, but it's not, and it's hard to do this. It's a you statement, not an I statement. I understand. No, you're upset. You're going through this. You didn't like that, whatever it is. You make sure that they know why, that you know why they're upset and what they're going through. So if they see you listening, and then you're able to validate what it is they're feeling, what's going to happen if you hit the head on the nail, then they're going to, oh, right? It's like a load off, right? They're going to say, yes, that's what's upsetting me. That's what's pissing me off. And then, and only then, now you can start to reframe. Why? So the past webinar that we did was keeping the calm. You can make magic when you've got them calm. You can't do anything if they're irrational. You've got to take the time to bring them down. You have to de-escalate those emotions, and it can take a while, right? Don't rush it. And when you are seeing what's going on, and you put a name to it and you validate it, they see that you see what they're going through. You are really building rapport with them now. And now, hopefully, they are rational. Now you can start to use other persuasive techniques. Now you can start to lead the parties towards some kind of agreement, right? Okay, so it's two steps, but there's a lot in there, right? You're doing a lot while you're doing that. Wendy, I'm now going to go through each one. So is there anything you wanted to say, or can I keep on going?
You should keep on going, but I need to ask you.
Please.
I can you make Velez Legal Services the co-host?
Sure,
I'm signed in
absolutely.
on my phone, so that way I can.
Yes, I see it.
I
Absolutely. Done.
have the.
Done. Done. Great. Alrighty. So they're both done. So let me keep on going.
Please.
Yeah, absolutely. So but let's go back. First step, listen. You need to listen empathetically. People used to say active listening. I think listen empathetically is more apropos, right? Because it's not just what we used to call active listening. You're doing a whole bunch, right? Doug Knoll, by the way, amazing mediator and teacher in California. He talks about de-escalating, and he actually had a problem calling it active listening. And listening to him, I realized, no, yeah, it is empathetic listening. And it's our non-verbal communication skills that are coming into play here, right? So somewhere upwards of 35% of all information processed when we're is nonverbal, right? It's the cues that we're taking in and we're figuring out what they mean. We're doing that for the parties. And then 30%, 38% roughly, that's processed via your tone, your inflection, the sound of your voice. So it's not really what you're saying, it's how you're saying what you're saying, right? It's how you're talking to them, it's how your voice is reflective, it's how you're trying to bring them down, right? You can say so much with just the way you say something. And then again, let them speak, let them tell their stories. Don't interrupt as much as possible, right? They need to vent. We're all human. You all need to vent. I need to vent sometimes. This is the time for them. And typically, this is either where it's during opening statements, right? And you've kind of turned it over, and/or it's because you're attacking this high. Any thoughts or questions before I'm just going to keep on going? Okay. Okay, so I think I was at let all parties speak, let them get their issues heard. They need to talk. Listen to them, right? And you're figuring out what's going on. Use your facial gestures, nodding, tilting of the head, leaning in closer, right? This is what they used to call being an active listener. And yes, it still does work even with Zoom, okay? Do not act bored or otherwise occupied or disinterested. They will tell, they can tell, they will be all in, right? And you got to know when to jump in and redirect folks as well. And it's an art form. Don't worry, you get better and better and better at it. FYI. And then we must always appear neutral, right? For everybody, even when you're redirecting, even when you're reframing, even when you're reality checking. Be polite, be professional, be courteous at all times, and mirror those emotions. Right? It's subtle and it's nuanced, but it's always going on. And if we recognize it, we get better at it. Wendy, I'm sorry. Did you want to add anything to that?
No, no, please keep going.
Okay, so we listened, right? First step, you've got to listen. Now you listened, they see you listened, you've been building rapport, they think that you're understanding them, you're hearing what they're saying, and you think, okay, this is what's really getting them upset. This is why they're distressed. Now we need to validate those party emotions, right? Because as they've been venting, now they're trusting us. They will tell you, I mean, TMI, right? In mediation. I mean, I've heard some wackiness, but it's because they trust you and they want you to see why they're right. Yeah. And so um, when we validate them, right, it's so that not only do they feel heard, but we're creating a safe environment for them where they know they won't be judged. That's what we mean by safe environment. I know that can be a trigger word, but here, when you're being subjectively neutral, what Wendy was talking about before, with them, when you're in just with them, that caucus, that place that you're in with them, there, they should never feel like they're being attacked. There, they should be able to say whatever they have to say, even if it's wacky and crazy. That's their safe place, right? And if you give them that, what happens? They start to trust you. And then you want to summarize the facts accurately. So, what I'm hearing you say is recognize what they are upset about. And this upset you because you're upset over this is really bothering you because you need to let them see that you name it, then right, put it out there, and then look for their agreement and relief, right? Their shoulders will go down, there'll be a sigh of relief, they'll say, yes, that's what's pissing me off. Now you just gave them your rationality. That's the beginning of them starting to think rational now, because you have made it okay for them to feel safe and to be able to now start being rational. And then, did I get that right? It's always that, am I understanding correctly? Because sometimes we're wrong, and they'll let you know, and then you change, right? Of course, but we want for them to know that we understand why, we see why you're upset. And then once you do that, now you're going to be able to start reframing them, right? And in essence, what are we doing when we're reframing, right? We're trying to take their perspectives and the issues that are on, whatever those issues are, and we need to put them into a positive, future oriented perspective, right? This is the way out. And they're not all winners, right? It may take several, reiterations. And when we talk about it moving forward, we're always talking about it positively, right? So focus on the future. Remind them, look, you can't change what's happened already, right? You can only look to the future. Show them that they can choose to see how things might look in the future. And once they can see it, once you start helping them see what that could look like and they accept it, then they can focus on the ways to move forward, right? So we're overcoming that obstacle, and now we're trying to show them, by reframing them, positive and future oriented perspectives, their ways out potentially, right? So focus on the positive, point out what future positive outcomes can look for them, be optimistic and positive. Oh my gosh, I am Mr. Optimism and Positivity all the time. And always point out any progress that you've made, right? I'm like, great job. Look at everything we've done already. Well done. I mean, everybody needs to be and wants to be rewarded and told that they did a good job, right? Even especially sometimes our parties in mediation. And then always be optimistic and always create an upbeat atmosphere as much as possible in mediation. Wendy, anything you wanted to add?
Well, I'm sitting here just, envisioning you. You are king of this style. Anyone who has, well, attended class with you, but certainly
Mediated
observed
like you have.
observed, you know, you so smoothly give praise. And I think what's really important about that too is that it has to be genuine.
Yeah.
You or it's I think really you have to feel it genuinely. You can't even just fake doing it because it's a good idea, even if it's could be genuine praise, because people can tell if you're being a phony.
They can.
But to continue up to when you come back from caucus with the other party and you say, I think that went well.
Right.
We made some headway. They listened to your point of view. Even if the other party said, no way in hell, I'm not giving anything. You start with the positive, right, and you try to find something positive that you can talk about. So let me ask you about this, right? And, sometimes if the party you just left wants everything in the world and wants to give nothing, then you don't necessarily come back and tell the other party, so here are all the things they want, because that's
it's case by case. Yeah,
case by case, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, everything.
Yeah,
is case by case.
Yeah,
you really have to be in tune.
Yeah,
I like
that's the point. You really have to be in tune, right? That really is the point, because it makes a difference, right? If they see you care, now they're going to be vested, and they will follow your lead, right? Everybody needs a confidant, and they really start to, you people really start to believe you, trust you, like you, so to speak. Okay, so we've gotten them out of monkey brain, and now we have them in a rational state of mind. Okay, now you got to keep them there. Okay, right? You and it may take doing. By the way, it is what it is, right? They have been in these emotional states for a while, FYI. But this is where, actually, I would tell you, at least for me, your EQ, your emotional intelligence, is coming through all the time, right? But um, getting them there, you're using your emotional intelligence. Keeping them there, you're reinforcing it all the time. And so, as a mediator, when we're showing empathy, that means, and by the way, this is not all encompassing, right? But you're using your eyes, right? You let them see the sincerity, make effective eye contact, use your body language, right? Mediators, nonverbal communication skills, we are using them all the time. Just the inflection in your voice, just when a smile, letting them see, I hear you. And use your heart as well. Treat them like family or someone you respect. Like that wacky uncle or the off the wall cousin or like a brother, but treat them genuinely, even the ones you don't like, right? Because you need their buy-in, and you're being subjectively neutral. And from their perspective, I can see things from their perspective. And if you're genuine, even if you don't agree, you can still make a connection with them. Be attentive, be engaged, be authentic, be transparent. Always be transparent to the point of you're being too honest. They always be transparent. It comes through and they appreciate it. Assign party tasks, right? Give them homework, give them something to do when you're going on the other side. If it's a family, yesterday I had family mediation, someone needed to refinance. This individual, she was very, very emotional. So there were a number of things that needed to get done, right? Um, and so I gave her a list of things to do, and she was working on those things. By staying focused on task, it keeps you rational and you don't go back into monkey brain. You just let them stew for a while and they can go back to that monkey brain so easily, right? Because they've been thinking like this for a while. Give them things to do. Don't leave them alone too long, by the way. When we're mediating, time flies, right? You get into flow and time just moves, and before you know it, it's half hour, 40 minutes, an hour. So I like to kind of, whenever you caucus, write down the time that you left so that you can keep track of how long you're in there. My general rule is like half hour. If I get to about a half hour, I'm at least going to send a message, pop my head in and say, hey, listen, we're still going. I didn't want you to work. Okay. So you've gotten them off of monkey brain and you're gotten them rational. We're in the calm now, right? That's what that last webinar was about. Make magic in the calm. So you got to start generating movement. I'm thinking we're generating movement at this point already, right? That's what you're doing throughout the when you're listening to them, right? We're doing so many things. You're trying to figure out where to go. But one, right, those obstacles keep popping up. Yeah, you may have them rational, but they have been living with this these issues, this problem in their life for a while. And so, use your emotional intelligence to react appropriately, right? You want to be careful how we react. Know when to laugh, when to, oh my gosh, when not to. When you're in with both of them, that you don't want to react if one of them says something, because then the other one is going to think that you are siding with them, right? You want to be really, really careful. You have to know how to keep a stoic face. But by the same token, it be appropriate, to show emotion and to laugh? Sure, it can. And to maybe even commiserate with folks? Sure, it can. Let your instincts tell you when it's okay, by the way, okay? Um, ask good clarifying questions. What are our questions? Our questions, there are secret weapons, right? Your questions, you can, if you know what's going on and you have a good idea of the law and you have good experience, your instincts will help you to know what are the questions I need to ask to guide the parties the way I need to get them from here all the way over here, right? And sometimes your questions, or to some a smaller extent or a larger extent, they can be some of the keys to helping you get to the heart of the matter, right? You can reality check with great questions. You can help them see things. We can't give legal advice, right? Our questions, man, do they come in handy. Um, Open-ended questions early on, get them talking, right? An open-ended question is inviting them to talk. But then as we keep on going, you want to start narrowing those questions. We want to start focusing the parties, right? And then if you have a talker, or once you're kind of getting where you need to get to, you can ask close-ended questions, yes or no answers, right? And you'll know when to do this, right? You'll have a talker like me in mediation. Our questions, right? They are used to clarify, explore possibilities, confirm, agreement movement. Let's keep on going. Wendy, did you want to add anything on that?
Nope, you're going along great. We have 10 minutes left and
Thank
I
you.
think 3 slides. So
Yes, so I think we're good.
mhm.
Okay, so how about reality checking as appropriate? So right, this is what helps us help them consider the practicality of their positions when they're not in tune or aligned with the practical or the legal reality of what's being talked about, right? When you have to kind of bring them back. Um, Sometimes they will really get stuck in their positions, and they may be very unrealistic, right? Or are aspirational, or again, it's a remnant of that, how emotional they were, or folks like my cousin's sister. What do I hear a lot, like when we're in family mediation, someone will say, but my cousin's sister went through mediation and that's not what happened there, right? Every case is different, but still they are going to be stuck in positions, right? And we have to be able to kind of bring them back. This is a great tool when we reality check, and again, it's instinctual. It's knowing the right kinds of questions to ask, is what can help them see that their positions aren't really the hill that they want to die on. And so the mediator or another third party, like their attorney, for instance, or opposing counsel, can also help reality check and educate an entrenched party through reality testing. When sometimes the mediator and the attorney are working really, really well together, sometimes the mediator can ask questions for the attorney to answer, because it's tough sometimes for the attorney. They may have a party that is just being difficult, and so or sometimes you just need to help them both see, and so you can ask either directly or indirectly of counsel what their thoughts are. And the point of the matter is you use your instincts, right? Reality checking is one of those important tools. Wendy, you want to add anything?
No, sir.
No, sir. Gotcha. So it isn't what we say. It's not what you say. It's how you say what you say. You can say almost anything that you need to say. So here's some, examples of reality checking questions. Have you spoken to an attorney? If so, what did they say? I'm a broken record with this one. Did you speak to an attorney? That's something you can definitely speak to an attorney about. I'll likewise use my opening statement to let folks know something like, um, I can't give legal advice, but if at some point it seems like you need it, or you were to specifically ask me, what I might do is say, that's something you can talk to an attorney about. So if you hear me say that, that might be something you want to talk to an attorney about. And so that's in my opening. I like to pre-frame with pro se parties, for instance. And so all throughout, if I say, that's something you might speak to an attorney about, have you spoken to an attorney about that? If they heard me, like it's a signal to them, right? Um, well, let me ask you, what do you think the judge is going to say? Counsel, what might the court say on that issue, right? Um, what what strengths do you see in their case? In your case, what strengths do you see in the other party's case? What weaknesses do you see? Any weaknesses with what you're saying? What are the weaknesses do you see on the other side? I mean, it's case by case. It depends, right? But um, you can ask them about the BATNA best case scenario, right? What's your best case scenario? let me ask you, what's your worst case scenario here if you can't resolve this issue? Because we're trying to get them to think about that other thing they don't want to think about, right? And the gambit of questions that can be asked is immense, of course, and you're going to follow your instincts. And based on what's going on, based on your experience, what you've seen in the past, you're going to use that wealth of knowledge to help you figure out the questions that you need to ask them. Let me ask you, what happens if you go to court? How much is it going to cost? Litigation is when it gets expensive. How long do you think it's going to take? Are you better off here or are you better off there? If you see what I'm saying, right? All right. I think I've got two more. Some additional methods, and there's plenty of others, right? The takeaway. What I mean by this one is, parties are being they're entrenched. They've drawn the line in the sand on some issue. And try as I may, I can't get them to change their mind. Okay, I understand. Listen, don't worry. You can reserve on this issue, right? You can reserve on this issue for determination by the court at trial. You don't have to come to agreement on this. You can let the court make this decision for you. Don't worry. Now, they don't typically want to go in front of the judge. So right off the bat, now you're starting to scare them a little bit. And a lot of times, with the pro se, I'll say something like, um, so, and you don't have to worry, right? You can reserve, let the court take care of this for you. But I would just tell you this, if you're not going to come to an agreement, which is fine, but this is another place you might consider talking to an attorney about. Or you might want to hire an attorney. Remember, litigation, that's when legal issues become expensive. And if you're not going to hire an attorney, and I would tell anybody consider hiring an attorney, but at least go get a consultation, because mediation is one thing, and everyone gets a chance to talk. But when you're in front of the judge is going to look at you, and you're going to be on, and you're going to have to know what to say, how to say it, when to say it, what not to say. Oh, and by the way, you're going to be nervous. And so you see what I'm doing there, right? The takeaway. Don't worry, you can always let the judge. Scares the hell out of them sometimes. Or they're like, yes, that's what I want to do. And then maybe that is the best thing to do. Playing devil's advocate, offering the parties both sides of the legal coin, right, in the form of a question, giving them various scenarios based upon each perspective. Nothing wrong with that. It's not what you say, it's how you say what you say. Or sometimes you're listening to what they say, and you've been here before. You've heard ask this one thing many times, and you might have an idea what they're going to say on the other side. There's not a problem with saying something like, if you think it's appropriate. Let me ask you, having talked to them, and based on what you're saying now, I can imagine they might respond with X, Y, and Z, or they might respond like this. What would you like me to say if they respond like that? Do you want me to say something else then, or should I come back? But the point of the matter is, what am I doing there? I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm throwing in that thing for them to start thinking about, right? Why don't you think about that while I'm over there talking with them? Oh, great. Wendy she's putting in the PDF version of the PowerPoint presentation. And likewise, she's also putting in the certificate, the CME certificate for today. Okay. And let's see, there's another message. Okay. And then let's keep on going. So speak with counsels alone, right? This can be really, really helpful. Either one attorney or both attorneys. But, when you get them away from their client, you can talk freer with them, right? You don't have to necessarily guard what you say, because that's counsel. They know what they're doing. It is their job. And sometimes the attorneys will talk with each other, and that's a great way of helping them kind of clear some issues up. I can't tell you how often letting counsels talk or speaking alone with an attorney is important. If you have something to say to counsel, don't say it in front of their client, right? Always respect that attorney-client relationship. That's a professional courtesy in my mind. And then know when to be quiet, know when to use silence. Let silence ring sometimes. If we had more time, I'd stop talking right now, right? Just to show you how uncomfortable it can be. Silence can be really, really powerful, right? Because if you say something like, after someone says something, the way I'm looking, and then I don't say anything, I'm saying something, aren't I? Absolutely. I'm saying, are you sure about that? And then know when to be directive. I'm a facilitative mediator. I don't, believe it's my job to tell the parties. But there's a lot of different ways to be directive, and sometimes the parties need a more directive hand. And 13 years since I started mediating, I get the sense now, and I'm much more comfortable doing it. It can be helpful in the right situations, in the right ways, of course. And then the last thing. So what do we see here, right? Mediate a bunch of mediators with capes. For me, everyone, you know me, I'm a bit of a geek. For me, what we do, it's like being a superhero, right? We really help folks out in really, really tough times, especially when they're quite emotional. We can calm them down and help them find some agreement. Um, Mediation can be a really, really powerful process. And, like Peter Parker's uncle says, with great power comes great responsibility. And for me, what we do is important. And so we make a difference in people's lives, and we need to remember that. And we need to let that also be important to us because, man, does it feel good. And if we were superheroes, we'd be something like the Guardians, right? And you are the guardian of the process. So be the best guardian of the process you can be and make a difference in your community, one mediation at a time.